in Toronto. I talked about that already. And Elon Musk has agreed to help Dr. Kaur. So Dr. Kaur owed $300,000. She raised $150,000, $140,000 of that, and in a couple of days, which is quite good. And so it seems like that story is evolving. Where's it going to go? I think it's going to be buried. I think it's going to just kind of disappear. If these Marxists lose, they don't highlight the loss. They don't advertise how terrible they did at that one time. They bury it, forget about it, and try again with a different kind of tactic, right? And that's notable because it seems like we think, oh man, we beat them. And all that happens is they change form, right? And so we should adapt as quickly as they do. All right, there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we have to start with the rain tax because we're ridiculous in Canada. We are ridiculous. We're okay with a carbon tax, air tax, as long as it's branded correctly, right? We think of an air tax as a carbon tax, and hey, okay, that's all right, right? Except now it's intolerable. We've been paying this for 8 years, for a long time anyway. Maybe not exactly 8 years, but for Justin Trudeau's term, we've been doing this, and it hasn't paid off. Nobody can understand exactly, nobody understands or can explain how this carbon tax reduces emissions or anything like that. It doesn't, and it goes into the general coffers. This carbon tax is nothing but a scam, and now an air tax and a scam, and now they want to tax the rain. Yay! Wall Street Silver's pointing this out. He says, the Liberals in Canada want to introduce a rain tax on Canadians. It's actually Olivia Chow in Toronto. It's not the Liberals federally, but I'll forgive Wall Street Silver. Canada is very, very complicated. It will be based on the amount of hard surfaces on a property. Yep, as if Canada didn't suck enough already. Now they want to make it even more expensive. Oh yeah, and it's not just rain taxes either. Son of a Bench says the Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow is proposing a rain tax. She wants to tax the amount of water from the sky that hits your property, charging you for the runoff into the sewer system. If the BC NDP brought this in, I would be bankrupt in days. So nobody likes the idea of a rain tax. Here's Pierre Poilievre attacking Justin Trudeau. It starts with Justin Trudeau saying that his carbon tax is revenue neutral, and the PBO agrees with him. And I don't want to listen to Justin Trudeau, so you'll excuse me if we just skip ahead to the PBO saying it's not revenue neutral. It takes away a little bit of the punch, but also we don't have to listen to Trudeau. So trust me when I tell you that at the beginning of this, he says, the parliamentary budget officer agrees with me about the revenue neutralness of my tax. Here's the parliamentary budget officer cut together by Pierre Poilievre. Here we go.
Once you factor in the rebate, but also the economic impacts, based on our modeling, the majority of households will see a negative impact as a result of the carbon tax.
So, and they've got the branding up there. Trudeau's carbon tax is not worth the cost, right? So branding, pushing a single message. Credit where it's due. He's doing the things that a political party needs to do to resonate. And also the media's playing along quite well, right? Here's Laurie Goldstein, my latest column. He says, Trudeau's costly carbon tax is just the tip of the iceberg. His climate plan is an enormous, complicated, economy-wide program where all the moving parts must work together simultaneously, brought to you by the government that gave us ArriveCan. So Christian's going to be in charge of that, right? And this is Goldstein's column. We'll just read a little bit of it. A report released by the Canadian Climate Institute last week was useful in explaining that the Trudeau government's carbon tax is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the true cost to Canadians of reducing industrial greenhouse gas emissions linked to climate change. This is bunk. They're not linked to climate change. Somebody's done a branding job, done a public relations campaign in order to tie those two things together. But a gas that is less than 0.5% of the atmosphere is not the temperature control knob of the world. It's not. It is absolutely not. We need to reject this idea, and we need to get out of this wizard circle because it's harming the country. Okay, back to this. In fact, the CCI says the carbon tax, also known as the federal fuel charge, aimed at consumers is a relatively minor part of this effort, accounting for a mere 8 to 14% of reducing emissions to the federal target of 40% below 2005 levels by 2030. All of that is just ridiculous. The largest contributor, the CCI predicts, will be the output-based pricing system, aka the largest emitter trading system, aimed at big industries, intended to account for 20% to 48% of emission reductions in 2030. That's followed by, and it goes through the breakdown, blah, 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 blah. But hold on, I'll get to the important part. After going through all the initiatives, it says, if it all works, the CCI predicts Canada's emissions will narrowly miss the government's 2030 target of 440 million tons by 27 million tons. So it's not gonna work anyway. We're not gonna hit the target, and it doesn't matter anyway. Of course, that's a big if, considering that many government initiatives have been announced but not yet implemented. So they're going by modeling. Like they're not going by real data. Like we've done this and blah, 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 blah. They're going by modeling on this. And it seems we're being led down the primrose path by people who do not have our best interests at heart. And that's a theme all across the West, and it's been a theme for a while. It's not new, okay? Starting foreign wars in Middle Eastern countries for oil is not helpful to the United States. Bringing democracy to, again, the Middle East, not helpful to the United States, unless, like, to your average everyday person who's living in the United States and working in the United States, waging a war halfway around the world to bring democracy to a foreign country. How does it help them, right? Could you make an honest argument? Right? And I don't think so. And it's very, very interesting. Climate, the movie, The Cold Truth, English. I haven't watched this yet. I meant to watch it yesterday. And I mean, things happen, right? So I didn't watch it yet. But I'll do dishes today, I'm sure. And this is on the top of my list on CanadaReport.co. If you're interested on things I'm watching, it says climate. So, and apparently this is being, one of the points this movie makes is that anybody who makes a good argument against this man-made climate change being a real thing gets censored, and this is now being censored on YouTube. I have an X clip. I have an X link with the same movie. I think it's just below it, so check it out if you're interested. But they're definitely misleading us massively about climate change, and we should get to the bottom of it, and we should remove anybody who's advocating for climate or green policies because, again, they're not working for Canadians. They're not working for us. Let's talk about our health. Greg says hospital patients in Edmonton, Alberta. Oh, I thought it was Calgary. My bad. But it was Alberta. Being sent to hotels or motels for post-care. This is insane. So this is a City News report. And here's part of this report. Here we go.
Questions continue to be raised on how a senior discharged from the Royal Alexandra Hospital behind me here was taken to a motel instead of a continuing care home like he expected. After about 6 months inside the hospital, a 62-year-old stroke patient was sent off to the Travelodge Motel in Leduc. He was paying for long-term recovery services, but his family telling media the room was not set up for wheelchair users. He struggled going to the bathroom or getting in or out of bed and was fed fast food.
This is a terrible situation that has come to light. I am sorry that the individual at the center of this situation feels that he was, that the service that he was going to get was misrepresented to him. And
he thought he was not going to a hotel or a motel? Huh. I mean, that sounds strange. We definitely told him he was going to a motel. Sorry, it was misrepresented, sir. It doesn't sound like she's apologizing for sending somebody who is sick to a motel and feeding them fast food. And I mean, feeding them fast food depends on the fast food. I've been to burrito bars that are fast and seem like pretty good food. I've been to Italian sandwich places in Guelph that are fast, but certainly robust, delicious food. Is McDonald's robust, delicious food? I don't know. I've seen the McDonald's fries, and there's in Alaska, the last, is it Alaska? There's a display somewhere, and I think it's Alaska, that says the last McDonald's fries and cheeseburger sold in this country. Maybe it's a European country, and it's still in like a glass enclosure box, and it hasn't rotted. So is it really like great food? I don't know. I don't want to get into the McDonald's debate, but is feeding fast food, more traditional fast food, Arby's, bacon cheddar curly fries, A&W, McDonald's, Taco Bell. I mean, if somebody shows up with Taco Bell for your hospital patient, I mean motel patient, is that okay? Is Taco Bell fundamentally different than A&W? I don't know. Like, really? Is there levels? Bar burrito is better than Taco Bell? I don't know. Fries Supreme is great. Alan says, I don't know who this is, but to be clear, this is not true. He says, BS, it's BS. Riley says, Canadian healthcare isn't failing because it's universal. It's failing because our hospitals are being overwhelmed by mass migration. Why not both? Why not both, Riley? So Alan says, BS. I think Riley's onto something, but I think Riley's thinking a little bit too narrowly. Riley's believing that the pre-2018 rhetoric and propaganda that Canadian healthcare is gold standard, top notch, some of the best in the world, the envy of the world. And it's not. It's not. If you have an issue, you have a wait list to be on. Like, you don't have healthcare, you have a wait list care, right? And then if you get in and they say, oh, well, you have to have surgery, you have to have this or that, that's an existential dread, because people die in hospitals, man. Like, I wouldn't want to go get my hernia surgery. And I had a hernia surgery at a private hospital in Ontario, and it was wonderful. And I can't say enough good things about it. But if somebody told me that I had to go to the Guelph General Hospital to get my hernia fixed, I would be very concerned that I maybe would not walk out of there. And not because they intentionally kill me, but because people do die of complications and all sorts of issues with surgeries. And in a general hospital where the care, the quality of care has been going down, I don't have the confidence I once had. Like, if you had told me in 2008 that I had to go into a hospital to get some care or something like that, I would have been like, oh man. And you have that kind of dread anyway, because surgeries are never fun or anything like that, right? Like, I don't want to go in the hospital because people die in hospitals. But not at the level they're dying now, right? Not because it's dirty, not because you're in the hallways, not because there isn't enough nurses to look after you. Back then, people just died because of, run-of-the-mill medical errors that are too damn high anyway. But to my point, the hospitals are overcrowded with foreigners. The hospitals are understaffed. And Canadians are suffering because of it, because our healthcare is crap. And he's saying it's not collapsing because it's universal. Yeah, kind of is. Like, that's part of it. The mass migration, you can't have open universal healthcare and mass migration. It just does not work. Chauvis says the Bank of Nova Scotia, suggests otherwise. And it says Bank of Nova Scotia warns that unchecked population surge of the past 2 years is behind the 2/3 of the massive decline in productivity over the same period. So that's according to the Globe and Mail. Yeah. Mass migration, printing money, doing all of these things where it seems like you can sell it as helping, but the reality of the situation was laid bare by a whole bunch of people who knew what they were talking about and saying, you're going to unleash inflation. You're going to cause all of these unintended consequences. You're not helping, basically. And they were ignored. And look where we're at now. The straight goods, this is healthcare again, is saying, I know I said I was going to take a break from social media. I don't know. So just as a quick aside, I was thinking about this. Not that I don't take breaks from social media. I don't take breaks. Okay. But it's not because I don't take breaks. This is a break. Like, this is fun. And going on Twitter is kind of fun. I'm interested in what's going on Twitter. I don't abide the drama. I'm not interested in getting into drama. I don't have like a crew of people behind me that I'm like, hey, Greg, this guy's bothering me, and he comes in and he's like, oh, I can't believe you're being such blah, blah, blah. There's so much drama on Twitter. I just don't care, right? And I don't know if Straight Goods here, like, he seems like a pretty upstanding guy, like, seems pretty good and all the rest. I'm not trying to criticize him. I'm just trying to say, I don't understand the drama behind social media. I use social media as a tool. It is mine to wield. It doesn't control me. I use it. And I just think it's weird to feel like the social media is wagging the dog a little bit and to feel like you need a break from it. I don't know. This is a break. Like, I've got other serious stuff that I have to deal with. That this is not that. And so it seems weird to me. Anyway, that whole thing is weird. For all you vax harm deniers, he says, here you go. Get on board or step aside. For all you that were saying this all along, consider yourselves vindicated. 9 pages of side effects directly from Pfizer. And so this is the list of pages listing side effects from Pfizer. And that's pretty wild, right? And we knew there were side effects. We knew that these were not safe and effective things. And we were gaslit unendingly that they were, and that we were anti-vaxxers and we were dangerous and blah, 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 blah. I lost my YouTube channel because of it. That's interesting, right? And just by saying common sense and logic says these things can't be true, they said, you're lying. You're spreading mis and disinformation. Okay. CTV News, spreading mis and disinformation. This is published March 2030, 20 a.m. COVID vaccines don't cause cancer, but false claims persist in a sea of misinformation. So years ago, these guys said safe and effective, 100% effective against preventing death. At this point, I'm wondering why these guys weren't saying what happened to the flu. Where are the headlines saying what happened to the flu? Why have politicians lied to us? Why are we paying taxes for foreign wars? Why are they trying to manage people's expectations about COVID vaccines and cancer, right? And lying to them about it. They don't know one way or the other. Like, CTV doesn't know. whether COVID vaccines are causing cancer any more than you know or any more than I know. I can see what's happening. I can see turbo cancers coming up. I can see Kate Middleton getting cancer. I can see the cancer vaccine that happens to be mRNA that they want to roll out. I can see all of that, right? But I don't know if the mRNA things are causing cancer. Maybe they are. It seems like we're having an uptick. That seems like a logical conclusion. But CTV News absolutely 100% doesn't know, just like they didn't know it was safe and effective when they told you it was safe and effective, just like they didn't know it was 100% effective against preventing death. They were just lying to you. They were just telling you what they were paid to tell you by the government. That's it. And that's what they're doing here. And it's ridiculous. And people are pissed. 744 likes, 250,000 views, and 2.9K comments. People are upset about the media lying to them, and they know they're being lied to. And that's something. That's something. Kate says Elon Musk has agreed to help Canadian Dr. Kaur with her legal bills after the Trudeau government has prosecuted her for 4 years for speaking out against COVID-19 mandates. And so the Countersignal is reporting that. So that's good. She was asking for help, and she did the Give, Send, Go, and she did all of the rest of that. And so it looks like Dr. Kaur will be able to, well, at least go to the next step of whatever the next step in her journey is over this whole ridiculousness. It's ridiculous that we are at this point. Canada is materially different than it was 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, right? In 2013, although 2013, we were on that slope, right? Glee had happened. I think Glee was the start of woke. I really do. And so Glee had happened in 2013, and we were on the way to social justice and the rest of it. I remember social justice in schools. I worked in schools, and social justice was taking over the high school that I worked in. And social justice meant that kids could be very disrespectful in classrooms and do things in a disrespectful way, and then not be held accountable for that in the way that they used to be held accountable for that. And the teachers would talk about the administration like, ooh, they were upset. They were upset with the administration because the administration wouldn't do a damn thing about the kids. And these kids used to get suspended for stuff like this. Like, you're done, in school suspension, 3-day suspension, big deal. Parents would get involved, blah, 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 blah. Although the idea of kicking a kid out of school if they're acting up in school, kind of funny because that's what they want. Anyway, regardless of all that, the idea that you can act up and get away with it started in schools and then got put out into society in a more broad way. And I noticed it in 2013, and by 2015, I was gone because the schools were ridiculous. It was crazy. It was dangerous. Like, they created in schools a dangerous situation for students and for staff, but mostly for staff, because if the staff said no, they'd get charged, or they'd get you'd be in trouble. You'd have to go down and explain like why you were being mean to these kids and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, there are rules. Like, this is not Vietnam. Big Lebowski. Okay, Maxime Bernier says, talking about housing, for years after launching the People's Party of Canada, I was alone in raising the alarm about the negative impact of mass immigration, and I got smeared by the whole political and media establishment for it. But you can't deny evidence forever. Now almost everyone, even the Liberals, are finally recognizing that there is a limit, although the fake Conservatives are still afraid to admit it. Only a small fringe of corporate profiteers and crazy ideologues still support increasing immigration even more. This modest cap announced by the ministers is only a first step. We need to drastically lower the number of newcomers, permanent and temporary. But at least now the debate is going in the right direction. The hysterical phase when simply raising doubts about constantly increasing immigration was enough to get you called racist is finally over. And that is in large part thanks to the PPC candidates and supporters who remained mentally sane and weren't afraid to speak up during these dark years. Yep. So Canada to put a cap on temporary residence for the first time, according to this newspaper, I think it's Post Media anyway. Cap on students, asylum seekers, and temporary workers will be introduced this fall. Oh, wonderful! This fall. Can't wait till then. It'll probably be tied with a digital currency and a social credit score and a digital ID. So you're welcome. We'll cut down on immigration, but in order to do that, we'll have to know everything about you. Yes, your dog needs a digital ID too. The world has gone mad, says Calgary Council looks for an easy answer on complex issue of housing. Stop immigration. That's easy. Have a plane, set it up in the airport. When it gets full, fly it out of there and land it somewhere else and empty the plane and bring it back and fill it up again. And that's how we solve our housing issue. There you go. With a couple of million newcomers competing for a couple million have 2 planes. For limited housing, why are we surprised there's a crisis? Now Calgarians are being asked to pay the price for government negligence and incompetence. Yeah, so sorry we've screwed up the country. now you have to pay more for everything, and or you can't afford a house, et cetera, et cetera. But these people in England are being kicked out of their home. This looks like my grandparents' house. My grandparents had a row house. They bought their council house. It was called a council house. And like I've visited houses like this. My grandparents had a window on both sides of the house, but their backyard looked a lot like this. They had is this the front yard? This might be the front yard. So these people are being kicked out of their council house. Steve says, fury as families told to quit their homes as refugees move into UK village. And there's a MSN article about this. MOD kicks out white indigenous families so immigrant Afghan families can take their homes. Remember this, if British government wants you to die in a cold trench fighting Russia. Well, that's coming. The Russia area in the show is later today, but it's a very interesting segment today. Canada Proud says, are you worried about the state of Canada? Canada's fallen into its first population trap. This is interesting. It's done by Canada Proud, so check this out. It's a minute and impactful. Here we go.
Canada's standard of living is falling fast. Check this out. Our standard of living is quickly starting to fall and is now way behind the US. Check out some of the issues we're starting to see in Canada that we haven't seen before, like massive job lineups for entry-level jobs and people lined up for hours in the rain to register for a family doctor, and large increases in violent crime, such as auto thefts in Toronto. In fact, experts are saying that Canada has now fallen into its first population trap, which is something that normally only happens in third world countries. This happens when a country's population grows so fast that it does not have enough resources to improve the standard of living. But even with all this happening, Canadian housing costs are still way out of line compared to the US. How do we get out of it? Economists say that we need to limit our population growth to this range per year, as opposed to what we saw
300,000 to 500,000.
Last year at over 1.2 million. Do you guys think more people are going to start leaving Canada if this trend continues? Let me know your thoughts.
It doesn't matter about that trend. I mean, leaving Canada is one way to sidestep having to pay for the fallout of this absolute boondoggle we're on the hook for. Like, holy smokeroni. Like, if you can leave, it's probably a really good idea. Like a southern state, maybe. Montana even would be nice. If you could do that, maybe Europe would be good. Jeepers creepers. But it's so complicated because, like, if you want to leave and you see the danger, that's one thing. You have to convince the people that you love that there is the danger, and then maybe they'll come with you. But most likely, they'll say, we'll probably be okay. Whew, it's crazy. This is insane, says Elon Musk. Senator Bill Hagerty says, tonight every single Senate Democrat voted against my amendment that would stop the Biden administration from using taxpayer dollars to charter flights for hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens from their countries directly to American towns to be resettled. They voted against it. Okay, that's crazy, says Elon Musk. So in Canada, we are being flooded in a different way than other places, but they're using taxpayer funds and tools, government tools, to resettle people from foreign countries into this country. Why do you think they're doing that? I think I have a whole bunch of different reasons, but I have a whole bunch of different theories, and a lot of it has to do with the 2024 election. Sleeper cells that will be activated on some future Order 66 or when the financial collapse happens. Another theory is talking about using the military directly to recruit the foreign people who are being brought into the country to give them pathways to citizenship, but then using them to put down the local population because the local population who are military won't actually act against fellow citizens that they see as themselves, right? And so we saw a little bit of that during the Freedom Convoy where police were brought in from foreign places and they were wearing masks and they were not wearing identifying clothing and things like that. They didn't have badge numbers, et cetera, et cetera. And so do I think that these people would do that? Yeah, I think these people would do that. Of course, I think these people would do that. Holy cow. It's a very, very bad situation we're in. Really bad. And people don't see it because they want to believe that, well, I've heard, even this Kate thing, I've heard, just leave it alone. People being upset with me for being skeptical. Can you blame me for being skeptical about this video? Holy smoke, man. There's so many questions and no good answers. Oh, we've seen a video. I've seen videos where people look exactly like Kate Middleton until they pull off their head and then all of a sudden they're a 6-year-old girl and you're like, what is going on? I've shown that video on this show recently, like in the last year. Okay, Wall Street Silver says, let's talk about cost of goods, because we're talking about cost of homes. Oh, I had another clip. Hold on. I thought the other clip was coming up. Hold on. I couldn't find the clip. It's fine. It was another council house being having the tenants evicted and some other foreigners moving in. And by foreigners, I mean like people from a different country being directly brought in to move into that house, right? Like other people who were like British people who grew up in England were removed in order to house the foreigners. And that's, I mean, intolerable. Why is that happening? Why do you think? It's not an accident. Wall Street Silver says, how in the world did we get to the point where lettuce is $7 in Toronto? Yep, $6.99 for a head of lettuce. Don't shop at Loblaws. I mean, right? Loblaws, they're paying for their real estate. They can't afford their real estate. They have a lot of very expensive real estate. That's why their prices are so high, right? Loblaws is also a real estate company. Wall Street Silver again says shopping in Costco in Canada is totally insane. This is common for food prices across Canada under the Justin Trudeau regime. Prices are increasing out of control, way beyond any increase in income. We can't afford the price of food, and that's happening faster and faster. So go out for dinner sooner than later, because soon nobody will be able to go out for dinner. Fast food, well, maybe. Here we go. Here's a lady in Costco.
Shop with me at Costco Canada. The prices are insane. 3 steaks are $70. A strip loin roast, $182. Prime rib roast, $169. Prime rib roast, $169. Okay, now this is amazing. Sushi at Costco. How did I have no idea? Totally reasonable price too. Okay, back to overpriced food. $11.99. Thing of grapes. 5 avocados, $8.99. This was $450. I believe I got like 10 items. Outrageous.
That's crazy, right? And it's happening here. Toronto Star says our cost of living crisis. In just 3 years, rent has doubled. Groceries are up nearly 40%. There are solutions, ... I don't think they're going to be advocating for the same solutions I'm advocating for. Fundamentally, my solution is make everything as cheap as possible. Their solution is give as many people as much money from the rich people as possible, and people will be happy. My idea, and I think it's the only way to do it, is to make energy and land and all of the basics so cheap that anybody could afford it. Like if you had a basic job, you'd be able to afford it, right? In fact, the land should be so cheap that you could sign up for free land as long as you were going to work it and put a house on it. Free land? Sure. Why not? We've got so much land. Free land would be a great idea. We could do that in Canada. Everybody who was born in Canada could get a parcel of land. All they have to do is grab the land. All they have to do is go and sign up at the government office. We have so much land, we should be able to do that. And if you want to do like more than that, if you want to innovate and make Canadian products, the government should be able to give people means to do that with, right? And by means, I mean access to land that's, pristine or whatever, access to resources such as forestry places, things like that. You know what I mean? Like we could do so many things, but we don't innovate whatsoever. It's crazy. There are solutions. Of course there's solutions, but nothing that makes anybody rich. I mean, like you could make the country rich, right? But Justin Trudeau wouldn't get rich off that. So he's not going to do it. To understand the new populism that has begun to drive our politics, visit the supermarket. They're going to blame right-wing people on this. This is the Toronto Star. Prices are no longer spiraling upwards, but neither in the main are they coming down to pre-pandemic levels. Do you understand inflation? Like inflation hits and it doesn't undo itself. That's degrowth and that's not good, generally. Prices are still stuck at the elevated levels to which historically high inflation rates push them. Yeah, but now that they're there, they're probably not coming down. Like they changed packaging. The company's got you used to paying this inflated price, so they're going to keep charging it. And the cost is going up in 6 days, 7 days anyway. So what? They haven't even, so it's setting a strange expectation that the prices are supposed to come down. That's not going to happen. If you think that's going to happen, avail yourself of that misguided notion now. It's not going to happen. The prices aren't going to come down. Not in the grocery stores and not for a while if they do come down. If you get somebody who comes in and takes out all the taxes, then okay, the prices will come down, right? Because people will feel it'll go back to some kind of, it happened in 2008. The gas was $1.30 a liter. And I thought we'd never see a 99-cent liter gas again. And we did. And I was shit shocked. But We did for quite a long time as well, until Justin Trudeau took over. Ridiculous. But these news articles that are setting this unreasonable expectation of the prices coming back down, it's not doing you any favors. So it goes through the affordability crisis. It goes through its proposed solutions. We're just going to move on because their solutions aren't going to actually address the problem, right? Douglas says, I don't normally go after taxpayer-funded overspending on politicians, but this is impressive. Trudeau's four vacations over a recent one-year span, twice to Jamaica as well as to Tofino and Montana, have cost taxpayers $900,000. Isn't it weird that the Prime Minister of Canada vacations outside of Canada more often than he vacations in Canada? That seems weird, right? If you're the Prime Minister of the country, shouldn't you be able to find something to do in Canada while you're the Prime Minister for that short period of time in your life? Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful